We're over at the parts car, and every time I'm over here I can't help but see all the stuff I could have used off of it when I first bought my other car. You know, this thing does have a brand new master cylinder, brand new brake booster. And I had to put a master cylinder and a brake booster on mine. Luckily I did get a brake booster at the junkyard and did not get the master cylinder off the car that I got the brake booster off of, because I didn't know I needed a master cylinder at the time. But hindsight's 2020, and this car was not available to buy as a parts car when I bought my other car. So as soon as a parts car came available, I bought one. So since we have a parts car, and we're out here, that can only mean one thing. We're about to take another part off of this car, and what we need now is the steering gearbox. And mine has been leaking since I got the car. When I test drove it, it had no power steering fluid in it, and the guy actually handed me a quart of transmission fluid when I went to test drive it, and I was thinking, well, I guess it leaks transmission fluid, but nope, it was the power steering. And so who knows how long it was leaking. I've just been topping it off, about every 2 weeks it gets low, and so I've gone through several quarts of transmission fluid at this point, and it's time to fix it. The thing, I've pretty much fixed all the oil leaks, all the transmission leaks. I mean, it stays oily underneath, but it doesn't drip normally. The only puddle it leaves is from the power steering. So we need to get it fixed, and we're gonna fix it by just swapping in this gearbox. Now it looks nice and dry. I've looked underneath, where the Pitman arm is. It looks dry there. It looks dry at the input. So I think this one should be good and not leak, but you never know until you get it on there. So worst case scenario, if it leaks, then we'll rebuild my original one, while it's off the car, and then swap them back. So we're gonna pull this one off. It just rained. I should have done this yesterday, but I was waiting on I ordered a Pitman arm puller because mine is broke. I just had a cheapy Harbor Freight one and I broke it. I've had like 3 of those cheapy ones and I've broke all of them. So I've got the car jacked up. We're gonna throw some stands under it and make it a little more safe. I might go ahead and air that tire up just to give me a little more room, and I'm gonna have to throw some cardboard or tarp or something under here because it's wet. You can see where the jack pushed this down, it just squeezed water up. So I'm gonna secure this thing, and we'll after it's secured, we'll put probably some wood blocks down and put some stands on the wood blocks, make sure we got it really secure. We'll get up under it and start undoing. I think I'm gonna undo the Pitman arm. I think that'll be the easiest way to get it off, unless the Pitman arm gives me trouble. The way this does, you got 2 tie rod ends that hook up to the Pitman arm. I don't know if I can get y'all in there where you can see it. See, you've got 2 tie rod ends that hook up to the Pitman arm. I think the easiest way is just gonna be to undo that Pitman arm and pull it off, and then we'll do the same thing on the other one. Sometimes Pitman arms can really fight you getting them off, and if they do, then we'll undo the 2 tie rod ends. And back over here at my Mercedes, well, I guess both of them are mine, but this is my daily driver. You can see that input shaft is wet, and so we definitely have a leak here. I'm gonna get some brake clean and spray off around those lines right there so that we don't get any trash, any grit, in there, and then we're gonna jack it up, and I'll leave the tire on it. I didn't have to take it off the parts car. But let's look at the parts car at what we got. Or not look at the parts car. I did not video over there. It was just a wet mess. But there's our gearbox. It is off. And wasn't too difficult. That is a really good Pitman arm puller. I love it. It worked perfect. Fit on there perfect. Just zipped it right off. My Roby impact, love it. And my wiggle joint, love that. So good stuff. So looks like this thing had some blue Loctite on it. It is a 36 millimeter, yeah, 36 millimeter, and came off. And this joint was a little hard to get off. That's the wiggle joint. To save this, I think what I'm gonna do, we'll see. It was really difficult to get off the shaft. I don't know if mine will be. It may not be since mine's been used. But it came off easily on this end. I went ahead and took this off because what we're gonna do, we're gonna shove this back on there, and we are gonna check for play. There's also no master spline on this. Of course, I've never, well, I guess some have master spline here, but none here and none here. And so it's half a turn off from being centered, from the wheels being centered. From when I removed it, I had to rotate it. I had it centered and I had to rotate it to get to this. So it's a half a turn off right now. I think what I'm gonna do, instead of trying to mess with that, we're actually gonna center it. And so how we'll do that is we will turn it all the way one way. We'll count how many turns, and we will turn it all the way the other way and count the turns. I don't know, this thing may not have any stops in it. It may just turn and turn and turn and turn, who knows? But it should have a centered position. I just don't know. I don't know. So I guess we'll find out, but it may not. And if it doesn't, all we gotta do is just center the wheels up, center the car up, and we should be good. So we'll check it. I may go ahead and mark the shaft, the input shaft somewhere, or I may go ahead and center it up. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I will actually go ahead and center it up to how it was in the car. If you look, it was like this. And so to center it up, let's see, I had it like that. So centered is actually right there. So it is centered up now. I will put a mark on it, and then we will count. So if we mark it, yeah, that's not gonna work. Well, we'll put a mark on it, and then we will turn it and center it. Let's see if we can center it. All right, so here is where I tell you I messed up, and that is on centering the gearbox. So I'm gonna put this little clip right in here after I show you me centering it, and show you how the correct way is to center it. So on the bottom of the gearbox, there is a bolt hole right here, and it looks like a drain, and I think it doubles as a drain. That's it right here. So your Pitman arm will come out right here. Wait, let me think about this. Yeah, Pitman arm I think comes out right here. Not sure what that is. I guess that's a plug for one of the valves or something. But looking, or the output shaft where the Pitman arm hooks up comes out right here. But right there is a hole. And if you look in that hole, the shaft that's in here has an indentation for center. So you can take a bolt and you grind a little nub on the end, and you can thread that in. So you line it up to where you see that indentation, and then you thread that bolt in there, and it locks in that, you know, recess in that shaft, and locks it in the center position. So if you do that, you can then, you know, the gearbox is locked, it's not going to move. You can center your steering wheel, slide the gearbox on, center your wheels, and slide the Pitman arm. And you know, at that point, you know, as long as you know the gearbox is centered, so as long as you centered the steering wheel and then had the, you know, the steering wheel lock on, and then you centered your wheels up and slid the Pitman arm on, you know you've got everything centered. And so I think I'm close. You know, I turned the gearbox all the way one way, turned it all the way back the other way, you know, counted rotations, then, you know, turned it backwards, you know, half the amount of rotations, which should be ballpark center position. But this is the correct way to do it. And I'm gonna go double check mine, and I'm sure it's probably gonna be off, and I'm gonna have to go back and fix it. So, you know, it sucks, you know, that I'm gonna have to redo it, but if you're watching this, don't make the same mistake I made, and, you know, you'll have it right the first time. I was driving it and I noticed it feels a little off, and that's what made me decide to check on centering it, if there was a way to center it, because when I looked up the torque specs, I ran across a thread of somebody, you know, installing a rebuilt box, and it came with the centering bolt installed, and I was like, centering bolt? And so that's what got me looking. And then driving it, it seems, it drives pretty good. It pulls a little to the right, and it's a little more responsive turning left than it is turning right. And so I'm gonna check it and see if it's centered up, and we will center it and get it right. There's that bolt. You could use a much shorter one than they've got. All right, and there is that shaft. If you look, there's the center of it. And there's that little centering piece. I've already moved it one way or the other just to get a, just to make sure that was the center of it, and it is. You move it and it goes the other way. So let me show you now the steering wheel. I'm centered. So I'm gonna say did I get lucky, or did I do good finding center? I'm gonna say a little bit of both. Let's get this one out. We're under the car, and you can see the oiliness all coming back on this side from that steering gearbox. So I'm going to set y'all up, and we will get that Pitman arm off. It's about the best place I can get y'all. So we got our 36 millimeter. Does it fit loose on here? No. The impact just does a really good job. So this is our, I'll put a link to this thing. So far it's doing great. It's made in China, but man, it's got some beef to it. Maybe I'll show y'all some of my other Pitman arm pullers I've had. I've always had just cheap ones, but I did break a really good one time. I forget what brand it was. I think it was a Snap-on. I borrowed it, and I replaced, it may not have been a Snap-on. I don't remember what brand it was. It was a good name brand, and I broke it. I borrowed it from a friend and broke it. And I did replace it. Bought him a new one. So the thing's got a point to it, and the gearbox has an indentation in the center of the shaft, so that point goes in there, kind of locks on. We've got it hand tight, and we are ready to try to get this thing loose. Before I do that, I do have the steering wheel centered up. Kind of wanted to just feels tight. I wanted to just move each wheel. Yeah, it seems tight. I think I bumped y'all. I did. All right. Just making sure everything was still tight on this thing. So we're going to tighten. Not going to do it. Let me go turn the air on. We'll get the big impact out. All right. I say big impact, it's just my air impact. Ingersoll Rand composite body. Bought it at a garage sale. It's a good impact. Boom. So that is off. These joints are definitely tighter than they were on the parts car because it just flopped down. We'll have to see how we have to manipulate these to drop the steering gearbox down. But we are done from under here for right now. Now we can go back up and undo the input shaft and the lines, and there's 3 bolts that hold the steering gearbox to the car, to the unibody.